Oh, ScreenPrism, how I strongly dislike you. Let me count the ways. Actually, no, that was the gimmick for my last video, and I've got to space these things out. Instead, today's gimmick is attempting to describe the rage I felt while watching ScreenPrism try to paint Grease as being a positive look into gender roles and claim that Danny and Sandy are the epitome of accepting our true selves. For anyone who has seen the film, this video is atrociously ill-researched, and it disturbs me how it's enabling fans of Grease to ignore valid complaints about the film and show. For one, there isn't one way to perform gender. Hell, isn't that the message of the last 2 decades? The Greasers aren't rebelling against traditional masculinity by not being into sports, they're rebelling against school spirit. They're not manly in the way jocks are perceived, but they still retain their total testosteronality by being greasers. They were the gangbangers of their day. Them constantly greasing their hair is to send the message of their being tough guys by evoking a gang sign of their day. Yes, they can have feminine moments of vulnerability, but recall how Kenickie relaying his concerns to Danny ends. The two have a very quick bro hug that both make sure doesn't go on too long, and then go back to performing tough manly guy. You can even see him getting preemptively defensive before he'll allow himself to be vulnerable enough to even express worry at all. The video claims that the girls are feminine but not interested in homemaking or kids, but I've always felt that it was a given that this was an unstated certainty in their lives. What you do in high school doesn't matter, unless you commit a serious crime and not just a social one. People always call high school the best years of your life, but when you're 30, those days are just stories to tell to whoever will listen. No one will care that you slept with everybody in your class or if you're a captain of the debate team. Most of these things will only matter for a college application and then never again. So by mentioning that the girls aren't constantly talking about marriage and a nuclear family, you're not proving that they're disinterested in such a life. It's high school. For the most part, you're more worried about classes or fitting into the social hierarchy. And none of that is a clue as to what someone will do after leaving the halls of academia, especially when the society around you expects that you'll become a housewife after you're done with school. It also claims that there's a link with performing social roles and casting older actors to play teenagers, which is completely bonkers. Seriously, have you seen a non-Disney Channel movie? It's the exception in at least American film to not cast by age. Bloody hell! Liesl from Sound of Music was 21 when she played a 16-year-old. This really makes me wonder if they've seen any movie because they obviously didn't watch Grease. They keep stating that being your true self wins out, but that's not supported by the text. One of the only things anyone who hasn't seen this movie knows about it is change yourself for love is the whole point. Frenchie isn't a positive example of performing who you are. That's not even a part of her character. Her whole arc is looking for her future and trying to do everything she can in the now to get where she wants to be later. Dyeing her hair pink wasn't a choice. It's a symbol of her failure to become a beautician, and going blonde was a way to recapture her appearance and get back on track, i.e. completing high school. They literally inserted something into the source material just so they can make a point. But what's worse is what they say about Danny and Sandy. Neither learned to be positive representations for their genders, and they didn't unlock the key to performing their true selves. Danny tries to solve all of his problems by being inauthentic. Keep his friends by being the tough, I don't give a hoot type in front of the girl he likes. Try to win back the girl that he likes by being the jock type because that's what she seems to be into. But then discard that persona because she changed herself to fit with the cool dude he was before. Again, the moment he sees Sandy, he takes off the Letterman jacket and we never see it again. It was just a mask on top of his true self, which is the person Sandy met at the beach. And it's disingenuous to say that he no longer cares about what his friends think because he didn't have to appear as a jock in front of them until the carnival. And when he did, the way he explained the change was that he was willing to do anything to win Sandy back. Not that lettering and track was something he truly wanted for purely internal reasons. Danny doesn't get Sandy because he learned anything. He still blames Sandy for getting mad at him for trying to force her into making out when she didn't want to, which, put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. He also didn't really prove his masculinity or really anything except for the fact that he could drive a car when he won the race. It was just something he had to do because Kenickie was taken down by a head injury. Hell, it's more impactful in the live show when they fake Kenickie's head injury and Danny has to take over. But Sandy didn't know about the solid Danny performed. She just came to the conclusion that she still wants this boy because infatuation is blind. Danny's masculinity isn't healthy, even by the end. It still relies on gender policing from his group of friends, and he's still performing what others expect from him even when he goes out for sports as, again, he's not doing it for himself, but for Sandy. And then there's Sandy, my biggest sticking point with this awful misdirected excuse for analysis. For one, they have the audacity to call her transformation into Greaser Chick as being an unlocking of her sexuality and true self. Except in the movie, she never expressed interest in becoming this until she decided being herself wasn't enough to be with Danny, the express opposite of what they're claiming. We especially know this isn't who she really is because Marty is still coaching Sandy on how to be liberated with putting out the cigarette. It wouldn't be a problem if Sandy ever expressed wanting this, but again, that never happened. In the live show, Sandy displayed a longing to wear makeup, but that's not embracing your sexuality unless you're one of those people who think makeup is a sign of promiscuity. Yes, makeup and dressing sexy can be affirming if it's who you are, but that isn't Sandy. Even worse though is that the video makes the claim that Sandy is sexually repressed, that her getting angry at Danny for copping a feel when she didn't want it was just the old anti-sex ideology getting in the way of sexual liberation, that by becoming Danny's sexy girlfriend, she's shedding her girlish self. Does this not look womanly to you? This is utter nonsense and extremely harmful. They're saying by ever not wanting sex, you're being childish and adhering too much to old times. This isn't revolutionary. This is slapping the Me Too movement in the face and telling them to stop being so childish. This drives me up the wall because I am Sandy. I would literally dress the way she does in the movie pre-transformation, though with a lot more black. I didn't hang out with the rowdy crowd in school, and I didn't care about reaching sexual landmarks as soon as possible. This wasn't because of repression. My parents were religious, but it honestly rarely came up after I stopped going to Catholic school in 4th grade. No one told me that I had to wait for marriage or that I couldn't have romantic relations. It's just who I was and still am. I'm not doing this to perform the good girl societal expectation. I'm doing it for me. But by saying Sandy was only her true self after selling her soul to be with a guy is calling me inauthentic too. For a video that claims that there's multiple ways to perform gender, it has a very narrow view of what a man or woman can be. And like with Lily Orchard, they seem to be taking the film out of context to support a pre-written thesis to pander to nostalgics that don't want to have to confront the extremely troubling messages of their classic films. Most of the times when they cite the film, the clips directly discredit what's being said about them if you know the context around it. The set design even not so subtly telegraphs that the trajectory of Danny and Sandy is doomed. The writing is literally on the wall for them, and those who love Grease don't want to recognize it. I shouldn't even be responding to ScreenPrism, as it's clear that their videos are factory produced and what influence I have won't affect their business. But I'm doing this because someone needs to call out their poorly researched claims, especially because all the research needed was in a 2-hour film, their inability to identify positive representations of gender, and their simply harmful idea of what a grown woman looks like. Screw you, ScreenPrism. Thank you very much to The Very Mask for helping me to organize my thoughts, and thank you guys for consuming this video. If you want to talk to me about just about anything, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at NotAVampyre. Thank you very much again. Until next time, and I need a drink of water because all this anger hurt my throat.